Students, counselors, families, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining the Illinois IACAC Virtual College Exploration Program. A few housekeeping items before we begin with today's session. First and foremost, your cameras and your microphones are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. So if you have any questions throughout the session, you'll just simply use the Q&A button. You'll see the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. When you submit that question, it gets sent to all of our panelists, and they'll work to answer the question during the session and at the conclusion of the session as well. This session is one of about 300 that is happening through the Illinois IACAC program. So this is a panel presentation with multiple institutions, but you can also learn about these individual institutions in their own information session over the next few weeks. We encourage you to go to iacac.org to sign up for additional sessions. And also this recording and all of the recordings will be made available on the IACAC website shortly after. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our panelists.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. If you can hear in my background, there's an ambulance going by. Sorry about that. My name is Sylvia Hernandez, and I am the manager of Illinois recruitment for Michigan State University. I am one of the panelists for this session today. So thank you for joining us to learn more about how you can make the most of your college visit experience, including in these virtual times. So I'll let my other co-hosts go ahead and introduce themselves.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel O'Connell, and I am the Assistant Director of Admission for the Chicago region for Augustana College, which is in Rock Island. I've been with Augie for a little over 2 years, but I've been in higher ed for over a decade now. You have a wealth of experience from the three of us, so we're really excited to be here today and just to talk to you a little bit about how to make the most of your experience this fall. And I'm going to turn it over to Annabelle.
And I am Annabelle Vinson with the University of Iowa. I'm one of the Chicago regional reps. So like Sylvia and Rachel, we're based in the Chicagoland area and live in Illinois. So we are going to be covering a lot of tips during this session. At the end, we are going to save some time to answer your questions that you might have related to visiting. But throughout the presentation, you can use the Q&A feature to submit your questions, and then we'll make sure to get to those at the end.
Awesome. Okay, so we thought we should start this presentation simply by addressing our current state of affairs in the world. We get it. This is strange. This is probably not how you thought your junior or senior year would start in a mostly virtual setting where your college search may be limited to what you can find online or what you have to find yourself while walking around the college campus of your dreams. And while I know that may be disappointing and it might be difficult or hard to digest, we thought that we should really take a look at some of the positives that can come out of all of this craziness. So first and foremost, in my entire career, which has been over 10 years of working in a college setting in the admissions office, admission counselors like myself and my colleagues on the panel here today are traditionally on the road 24/7 in the fall and in the spring. In the past, this has meant that many of us have out-of-office replies on our emails, on our voicemails. It would usually take us a couple of days to get back to your question since we're simply not by our computers, by our laptops, have access to our phones because we're traveling from high school to high school, fighting traffic, trying to find a parking spot at your high school to meet with you in person. However, this year, I don't think a single admission counselor is hitting the road. We're doing all of our high school visits virtually from the comfort of our own home, where we are now, much like your studies are probably going. So we hope that this access to us as your admission counselor can be a real positive for you, that I can do a virtual event like this while also checking my email 10 seconds after I log off, or answering my phone in between visits and having access to what you need for me to tell you where you are in our application status or in your application status. So we hope that this is a positive for you. And we actually some of us who read applications are starting reading applications much sooner than we normally would, which is a huge positive. The second bullet point, given the pandemic, it has, I hate to say the word force, so I'll say really encouraged additional faculty and staff at various colleges to get more involved in the admissions process. So you have more opportunities to hear from the computer science department head or meet the dean of students in a virtual setting. Not at all places, but I know at Augustana specifically, nearly all of our departments were absolutely on board when we ask them to schedule regular virtual faculty sessions for students in high school to learn more about their departments, when in the past you maybe had to have been on campus to meet with that person if they were available at all. And third, this pandemic has really given colleges an opportunity to take a look at their virtual offerings with a fine-tooth comb. So we are upping our virtual games, which means that you have more on-demand access to content you wouldn't have usually seen before. Many colleges have developed driving tours, podcast tours, virtual events, have really enhanced their virtual tours so that you can explore without taking the time or the funds to visit that campus and realize you don't actually like it. So maybe you've saved yourself a flight across the country or a night in a hotel or a road trip 10 hours away. Maybe you can kind of refine, I'll get there, your college search without actually having to get on those campuses. And finally, many colleges are seriously considering virtual auditions, virtual scholarship competitions. And while I recognize that these virtual offerings don't put you face to face with that faculty member or that trombone instructor you were hoping to learn from or have a lesson with, but we hope that you'll see that the ease of accessibility that many colleges are attempting to offer you during this crazy time is a positive.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the different types of virtual programs that you may see, and this is a little bit more of a large scale look. And so you'll see here the first two bullet points definitely talk a little bit about some of the bigger programming that you may have access to. If you are not familiar, the National Association for College Admissions, or NACAC, is hosting 3 virtual programs this coming fall. There's one on October 12th, one on October 18th, and one on November 8th. This will give you an opportunity to get information from over 600 different colleges and universities. Some of you may have participated in the one that was this past Sunday. I know that there were over 2,000 different sessions that you had access to. And so this is just a wide variety of programming that is available on the national level to you. I encourage you to check those out if you're interested on the NACAC website. You can actually just search NACAC Virtual College Fair. Just Google that and it'll pop up for you. But that's a great way to, again, maybe gain access to schools that you have never heard of before, or maybe you didn't have the opportunity to see at your specific high school or in a smaller setting. And then we also have regional programming just like this. As was mentioned when we began, this program is going on for the next 6 weeks, and it's really nice because it is just for Illinois students. We're trying to focus the content around Illinois students, and so that's a way, again, for you to maybe have a little bit smaller feel, but in a little bit larger environment. So I would say the national programs and regional programs may be more helpful for you if you are maybe not a senior this year, or maybe you just have not really begun this process yet, and so you're really still trying to get information about different colleges and universities and really still exploring. These are, again, great ways to get generic and more general information. The second 2 points here, virtual high school visits and college university specific, may be more for those of you who are definitely seniors, you're in the application process, maybe you already have your college list firmed up and you know where you're applying, but these visits are going to be, again, a little bit more specific. For some of you, your high school is doing specific high school visits all throughout this fall. I think they started a couple of weeks ago and are going all the way through November. Some districts are grouping high school visits together. But that would, again, be a way for you to hear from a particular college or university. And then Annabelle's going to talk a little bit more about college university specific, so I will turn it over to her so you can learn more about that.
All right, thanks, Sylvia. So as Rachel said, the most important part, or one of the most important factors when you're trying to research schools, is visiting. So the best way to know what types of virtual events universities and colleges are offering is to visit their website. So as you can see here, Augustana College, the University of Iowa, and Michigan State University, all 3 institutions offer virtual visits, but slightly different options. So we'll go through what those options are. So the first is a daily presentation versus a visit day. Whereas a daily presentation, you're covering just general information about the college or university, typically covering the admissions process, maybe housing information, touching on scholarships, how to apply for specific majors that you might be interested in, and then just walking through those next steps. Whereas a virtual visit day will encompass a little bit more detail. So you might be able to connect with housing or student organizations on campus, or learn more about your specific major that you're interested in studying. So they're a little bit longer, I would say, in time frame, but then also more detailed too. So after those visits, if you do want to connect specifically with a department that you're interested in and didn't get a chance to do that during your daily presentation, feel free to reach out to us, like one of your, well, not us particularly, but your admission counselor to that university or college, so they can get you connected with the departments. So if you're looking to do a session on honors or health sciences or music, performing arts, you would be able to connect with those departments. After those visits, if you really have more questions and they're really detailed regarding your specific major, or maybe you are sending in a personal statement and you want to talk through that personal statement, or anything that you feel like we need to know, schedule a one-on-one meeting with your admission counselor. Rachel, in a few slides, will talk about like tips to get you prepared to meet with your admission counselor, but we are happy to help you throughout the entire process. Most schools will, if they have a regional person, they will be assigned to specific schools, and don't be afraid to ask, and we'll get you connected with the right person. A lot of you are already like committed or know that that's the school that you're looking to go into, and you want to connect with faculty. And we would encourage you to do so by reaching out either to your admission counselor to get that contact information for you, or you can call the admissions office and we'll get you connected that way. But that's a great way for you to learn of like what types of classes that you'll be learning, what are research and internship opportunities within that specific department, and who are you going to be learning from. So getting connected with faculty right away can definitely help this process as you go along. We all know you're tech savvy, so make sure if you are interested in a college or university to follow them on their social media platforms. Most schools are on Facebook, YouTube, some have Instagram accounts, Snapchat, and even TikTok. So if you're looking to learn more about like a day in the life of a current student, for example, there will be student takeovers on Instagram, and you're able to ask your questions through their question feature on Instagram. YouTube, you can do like a campus tour on YouTube. You can go into different departments on YouTube, or even in housing, they'll do housing tours on there too. So definitely take the time to follow and do some research there. If you are interested in a college or university, and maybe you're not a senior and you're not on our communications list, make sure you reach out to those colleges, go onto their website and find that form that says request more information or get me on your mailing list, let's get connected. We want to make sure you have your information, because there are some great events that are going on at these various colleges and universities that are specific to a certain major. So for example, a Zoom cooking tutorial where you'll be able to connect with faculty and do culinary demonstrations where faculty is cooking and you're cooking at home. Or maybe there's a certain tour for students who are interested in the College of Business. Well, we won't know to send you those invites to those different events unless you reach out to us and let us know, so that we can email you those invitations.
All right, so because so many of your options are likely going to be in a virtual setting this fall, we really wanted to give you some tips and tricks to help you navigate through all of this so you can make the most of your experience. And there are going to be so many options. Annabelle just listed a ton of them. So maybe you don't really know where to start. You're still like super overwhelmed with all of the options. You're still trying to figure out like college websites and things like that. So we really encourage you to find just a general session, or maybe it's titled like a 101 session at the college. If you've never heard of it before, you're really not quite sure if you want to apply, a general session or a webinar where you can just listen and see if you like what they have to offer is a really great place to start. So if you are doing a virtual session or even any sort of meeting, just like you would show up to an in-person visit, likely a little bit early so you can get your bearings, use the restroom, things like that, we encourage you to use the same mentality when you are doing a live event. Log in early, make sure you have a snack or a glass of water by you. Logging in early is helpful because each college is likely using a different platform, maybe one you've never used before. Obviously, you're all using Zoom now, and maybe you've used Google Meets, but maybe the college has a homegrown system, and you may need to work out a few kinks with sound or quality, or maybe you just need to switch the web browser you're viewing from. So by logging in early, and I know this sounds so basic, you guys, but by logging in early, we can help you figure this out and navigate any sound or quality issues that you might be experiencing. And sometimes it's only one person on a Zoom when we're presenting. And so if you're having trouble and you joined in the middle of our presentation, it's really going to be hard for us to troubleshoot if it's just me, myself, and I trying to give a presentation. So the second bullet point is really important as well. Don't get distracted. Listen, I know how easy it is to think you're paying attention, but you're really not, because you've got your phone nearby and all of the notifications are going off, or maybe the TV is on and you're in the middle of the busiest part of your house with so many people walking by and they're having side conversations. I would really encourage you to find a quiet place free from distractions so that you can really focus on what you're doing. If you don't remember anything that the college said, was it worth your time? And if you're distracted, even in a virtual setting, it's kind of a waste. So just dedicate that hour or half an hour from being distraction free, and you've saved yourself so much time, especially in a one-on-one meeting. And this has happened to me in the last 6 months when we've all been virtual. I could tell that the student was watching the TV versus listening to the conversation. They're attempting to join in the conversation that we were having. There have been conversations in the background. It's really distracting even for those of us on the college side too. So if you can find yourself a distraction-free zone, that's going to be your best use of time. So the biggest difference is webinar versus meeting, right? You probably know this, but just in case this is one of your first experiences, this is a webinar. We can't see you. You can't see anybody else who's on here today, but you're getting the information, versus a one-on-one meeting with, say, me or Sylvia or Annabelle, where it's just the two of us, right? So we may expect you to come prepared with questions, or maybe we start asking you questions about your college search. And if you're not ready to have a one-on-one conversation quite yet with just your admission counselor or a person at the school that you're really interested in, it's okay to not select that type of visit option. If it makes you uncomfortable, we totally get that. Stick to the general sessions or presentations where you know that you'll be on the call with other people or on a live webinar with tons of other people. And so you have lots of options. But if you do want something a little bit more personalized, because you know that college, mom or dad went there, your best friend is currently there, you feel like you know the basics of the school, you don't really need to know how many students are there, you don't really need to know the size of the classes, you know they have your major, maybe you really want more specifics as it relates to your admissibility or your scholarship eligibility, then it's a really great idea to schedule that one-on-one meeting with the college of your choice if they're offering it. It's really not appropriate to ask during a live webinar with tons of other people, can you tell me what my scholarship will be? It's really hard because we need to ask more follow-up questions to give you a proper answer. Or maybe you've had a rough semester and you think that would warrant a one-on-one conversation with the person reading your application. Schedule that one-on-one meeting. So you've got lots of options. In a webinar, especially like now, we are encouraging you to use the chat, use the question and answer feature. Get your questions answered. Let the colleges know that you're there. And then use those follow-up surveys that a lot of us send to help us fine-tune what we're doing. This is new for all of us. So if you attend a presentation at a college where they didn't talk about a single relevant thing, or it wasn't on the topic you thought you signed up for, or whatever the case may be, let the college know what we can do better or do differently. But don't be afraid to ask what's next in the process, or what else you can and should be doing. What else is there offered? There's so many things, and we're really happy to help point you in the right direction. We don't know what you don't know, or we don't know what you want to ask unless you do ask us, so ask. Next slide. Okay, so now that I've convinced you maybe that a one-on-one meeting with your admission counselor at the college of your choice is the route that you want to take, let's dive a little bit deeper into this, because in our mostly virtual world right now, this could be intimidating. We really want to debunk the myth that we are going to grill you with questions in that one-on-one, or we're looking for reasons to reject your application or anything of that nature. We are in the business of college admissions. We want to admit you. We want to get to know you. And there is nothing that most of us love more than a one-on-one virtual meeting with a student who's really interested in our college. So what do you expect from these one-on-one meetings? At the end of the day, it is truly just a conversation. Of course, we'll answer any questions that you may have, but we also want to get to know you too. So some of the questions that I find myself asking some of my students that meet with me in a one-on-one setting is really just honing in on what they're looking for in a college. And I would do this in a regular high school visit as well, where we're in person. What are you looking for in a college? Do you want big? Do you want small? Do you want rural? Do you want urban? What are you looking for? Because at the end of the day, finding the best colleges for you is about finding that best fit for you. What setting are you going to learn best in? So we might ask some questions about, class sizes that you're looking for, or what's been your favorite academic subject? So we really just want to get to know you. One of my favorite questions to ask students, just to kind of get to know them. This has really nothing to do with their admissions, and I'm certainly not going to call a principal or anything, but I love asking students, if you could change something about your high school experience, what would you change? Or if you wouldn't change anything, what have you just really loved the most? Or what are you most proud of as you think about your transcript and all of your accomplishments? So again, these shouldn't be questions that you don't already know the answer to. So I hope that you're not intimidated by a one-on-one meeting with an admission counselor, because we really just want to get to know you. We want to have a conversation. And then we really hope that you ask us questions too, right? Beyond just do you have my major? Yeah, you can probably find that on our website. But you might want to ask a few more deeper questions, like, am I required to live in the residence halls? Or how many students live on campus? And does the campus clear out on weekends? Those are great questions. And will I qualify for merit-based scholarships? Certainly something that you can ask an admission counselor in a one-on-one setting. And then if you want to know a little bit more about the majors that you're interested in, maybe you ask us, is it possible to connect with a faculty member in my field of study? Those are all really, really great questions. And if you're joining an event with a student panel, come prepared with questions for those students too. Oh, those students are involved in music? I want to be involved in music. Ask the students, the current students at the college that you're interested in, tell me how you found that ensemble, or how did you audition for the theater program, or can you be a part of this production if you're not in a theater major, things like that. Come prepared with questions for students too, not just your counselor.
Okay, and just to piggyback on that really quick, as you can see, and we've already mentioned, we're at home and we're just kind of hanging out too. So we want to hang out with you and chit chat anytime you want to talk to us. So, but in a different time and hopefully in a best case scenario, I want to just kind of talk a little bit about some of the tips and pointers for you if we are able to host visits, or we do know that there are some colleges and universities that are able to have you on campus even this fall. And for some of us, maybe not this fall, but hopefully this spring. And so I won't go over all of these bullet points because I know we want to definitely leave some time for questions and answers, but I definitely want to just tell you about a few of these points that I think are really, really important for you as you potentially plan an in-person visit to your colleges and universities. As we've already mentioned, definitely plan early, allow for extra time. You never know what's going to happen in regard to traffic. If for some reason you are potentially flying to different states to go visit colleges and universities, make sure you plan early, because there's nothing worse than being stressed out about getting to a campus late or not knowing where you're going. And so again, the earlier that you can kind of plan out and allow the extra time, I definitely encourage you to do that. I also encourage you to definitely drive around the city or town where your college or university is located if you have the ability to do that. Because around that city or town, you're going to get an idea of kind of just what Rachel mentioned. Is that campus more of an urban environment? Is it more of a suburban feel? Is it a rural campus? What is there to do around the campus? What is there to do on campus, off campus? This place is going to be your second home, hopefully for the next 4 years. And so you want to make sure that you are comfortable, not just on campus, but also in the surrounding area. And then I always like to encourage students, if your college or university has an actual student newspaper, it's definitely nice to pick that up just to kind of see what are the students talking about, what types of things are on the student's mind at any given time. And so grabbing a student newspaper, or maybe even just checking out a student newspaper online, that's something that will, again, just give you that pulse of a campus community. And then last but not least from this list, I just want to encourage everybody to, of course, make sure that you take notes and or take pictures. And this may be helpful for you for taking notes, not even through a virtual visit, but also on campus, but pictures, because some of you may be visiting, you know, upwards of 5, 6, 10 college campuses. And unfortunately, sometimes they all start to blur together as you visit multiple places. And so taking notes, taking pictures, that's going to be really helpful for you as you visit campuses, whether it be virtually or on the campus itself. And then last but not least, again, just have fun with these visits, whether they're virtual, whether they're in person, whether it's with a student panel, one of us one-on-one, again, a faculty member, different colleges. You know, have fun with this. This is a really exciting time for you. And so we want to make sure that you definitely remember to have fun with it. It is stressful, we get it, but, you know, again, have fun and enjoy it.
Okay, so that's all we have for you all. At this time, we're going to open it up for questions. So we have included our contact information, so you can reach out to us if you do have any questions after today. We're happy to help you. But right now, I'll turn it over to Rachel, and you could just ask the questions. But also, just one quick reminder: if you are interested in a college, make sure to get on their mailing list.
Absolutely. Okay. Thanks, Annabelle. We have had some really great questions come in. So the first one that a student wants to know is, what makes a great college essay? Does anybody want to tackle that first?
I think you should, Rachel, because you probably read a lot more essays than we do, being a smaller school.
I would be happy to tell you guys about that. At the end of the day, what makes a great college essay is really just telling us about you, your personality, what makes you uniquely you. Tell us about your passions. But I think the biggest thing that you want to do when you're writing your college essay is to expand upon your application. So it's not a great idea to just relist every activity that you've been involved in, because we can see that on your application. So maybe expand on something. The most common essays that I read are about maybe like a sports injury or a death in the family. And while those definitely have impacts on your life, I think what we're looking for in a college essay is just a little bit more. So really circle back to, how did that shape you as a person, and how will that translate to college admissions, right? Like, we're reading your application to admit you. So really telling us about who you are, your passions. If you're not funny, don't try to be funny. If you're not a poet, don't try and be a poet. It's okay. You do not have to get fancy or create something crazy for us. I've cried reading essays. I've laughed reading essays, but be authentic. Be authentically you in your essay, and truly don't overthink it. If there's a prompt, brainstorm and pick the best thing. But that would be my advice for college essays. Okay, so the next question is, will the admission counselors contact us students, or should we contact them, the admission counselors?
I could take that. I think it'll vary from institution, from different school to each school. For us, if we do have your contact information, we have a lot of students that apply. So you may need to reach out to us to start that communication. When you apply, you'll get an email from us just introducing ourselves to you. So you're more than welcome to respond to that. But if you do have a question, or if you feel the need to reach out, yes, definitely reach out. Don't wait for us to reach out to you.
Absolutely. Okay, and you guys, if you have more questions for us, now is your time to type them, but we will tackle the third question that we received. Is my admission counselor different for each school, or does one admission counselor help me throughout the whole process?
I can take that one. So generally, your admissions counselor is going to be different for each school because each institution is going to have someone that covers your state or your region, or maybe specific high schools, just depending on where you're going. So like for myself, as an example, I cover all of the high schools in Illinois that are in Cook and Lake County, but someone else covers all of the other high schools. And so for us, what's nice, and this kind of goes back to the second question, is most colleges and universities, if you go on their admissions page, they have some sort of a contact my admissions counselor button. And so you can find out who your admissions counselor is. For those of you, if you're at a high school that uses Naviance, maybe when you search our school, our name and contact information is already in Naviance. But you will have, of course, at your high school, your counselor there that can help you through the whole admissions process and college process. So you have your high school contact, and then individually you'll have all of us at the different institutions.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, our goal is to help you find your best fit. So yes, you're going to work with me at Augustana and Annabelle at Iowa and Sylvia at Michigan State, but definitely use your guidance counselor as a resource. But all of us have a wide variety of experience, and our goal is to help you find your best fit. So definitely we can work through all of the process. We have counselor in our name for a reason. We just work for Augustana. I probably can't tell you about Iowa or MSU's admission standards, but you can certainly work with us through the entire process. Okay, another good question. What would be a good amount of sports or extracurricular activities to put on your college resume or application?
So for us, well, I could just speak for the University of Iowa. I think it just depends on the school, but for Iowa specifically, we don't look at extracurricular activities as far as the admission process goes. That's more if you're applying for specific scholarships or different, like, for example, maybe the honors program. For admission, we're looking at academic core classes, your GPA, test scores if you have them. But we don't factor those into our admissions process. Although if you are writing a personal statement, you can certainly include that in there. But again, to Rachel's point, make sure to not make it like a running list of activities that you're involved in. We don't want to see a resume. We want to see more of a personal statement.
Absolutely. I think that we certainly do take a look at extracurricular activities when we are making an admission decision. So we just want to see what you've been involved in high school though. Sometimes I see students list things from like middle school and all of that. Really just hone in on what you've been involved in high school, but it's totally appropriate to list, like for example, if you're filling out the Common App, it's totally appropriate to list, I've been involved in softball all 4 years, and I have done volunteerism at Feed My Starving Children for the last 2 years, or whatever the case may be. So definitely put those really great things on your resume, but you don't have to put things like cooking dinner at home on your application or anything like that. And while that's definitely a responsibility and something that you can touch on in your essay, not necessarily something you need to put on as like an activity on your application. Okay. Should we reach out to our admission counselor after we apply for college, or is it better to reach out before applying?
I can take this one. So I really feel like whenever is honestly best for you is a good kind of thing to keep in mind. So if you don't have any questions or you don't really have any concerns, you may not want to reach out before applying. I would say maybe definitely after you've submitted an application to indicate to a rep that, hey, you're my counselor. I just want to let you know I applied. I'm really excited. And then that rep, again, may reach back out to you. Like if it were me, I'd say, so excited to hear about your interest in Michigan State. Please let me know if you have any questions along the way. And then that at least kind of introduces you to us. And then we also have an email connection. So if you have questions in the future, it's a little bit easier to reach out to one another. So again, I would say probably after you apply, but again, for some of you, you may have questions before you even start the application, or maybe you're in that application and you're like, oh man, I have questions about this. So again, any time that you feel you really need to reach out to us is a good time.
Agreed. Okay. The next question is, will there be SAT or ACT tests for colleges? I'm assuming that the student wants to know about test optional, maybe? It's going to vary from school to school, I would say, whether or not they require the SAT or the ACT test. A lot of colleges that required tests in the past may not this year. So you'll just have to reach out to each college that you're interested in directly to see if they're requiring SAT or ACT tests for their admissions cycle this year. That sound about right? Okay, awesome. I think we've answered all the questions. Type now.
And I just really quick to piggyback on that topic of ACT and SAT. because we don't know right now if you are a senior or a junior, if you are looking at colleges and universities, make sure you read about the test like optional or text flexible or text blind or test required for your year that you're graduating, because for some of us, it may be for like the next few years, it may be indefinitely, it may just be this 1 year that we're test optional. So I know that's a little hard to keep track of, especially if you have a big list of colleges or universities, but those most of the college websites should have that updated, especially for fall of 21 students.
It's a really good point. Thanks, Sylvia. Okay, I don't see any other questions that have come in, so I think we will turn it back over to StriveScan. They have one last announcement for us before we end this webinar.
And thanks for joining, everybody.
Yes, thank you. Good luck with your college search.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. Just some quick reminders to close this up. You guys are going to see a quick survey once you guys close this session. We highly appreciate any feedback you guys might have for us. It's going to be a 4-question survey. And just as a reminder, you guys are able to sign up for all of the sessions that we're going to be having going on. If you want to check out the schedule and more information about how to register for those, you can go to www.iacac.org. And then lastly, the recording will be available for this session along with all of our other sessions that IACAC is hosting. So you just have to go also to iacac.org. Thank you everyone so much for joining us.
Bye, everybody.